Hey everybody, what's going on? It's James here with Crypto Common Sense, and I have your Bitcoin/cryptocurrency update for January the 5th, 2020. Before I jump into this content, please do me a huge favor. Hit that thumbs up button on the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to click that bell icon to get notifications when I release new updates. So let's go ahead and, before we do anything else, let's talk about Bitcoin, okay? So Bitcoin has basically had one of those days that makes it really difficult to predict what's coming in the near future. One of the key levels that I was watching and that I had been watching for the last month really was the $7,430 level. You can see it. I have it on the screen here. It's marked with a red horizontal line. This is a 5-minute chart, but if we go to the 4-hour chart, it's easier to see. Essentially, we had the green level of weekly support. We had this red level of weekly resistance, and I was waiting to see if it could break through this. It broke through it yesterday, but here's the problem. It broke through it while the CME was closed, which is very suspicious because it's been doing this. The last several weeks it's been doing this where it puts in these gaps the day before and then just comes in and fills them in almost immediately when it opens. I talked about this last week right before it opened, saying that, look, here's our gap, right? It's so cliche, blah, blah, blah. And now we essentially, it's trying to do the same thing again. The CME, if I remember off the top of my head, it closed at $7,385. So this had, a few hours ago, it had pumped as high as about $7,500, just shy of $7,500 on Coinbase, which was over a $100 gap. The CME is going to open in a little over 12 hours from now, and we'll just have to wait and see where price is sitting at. But I don't like the fact that this pumped over the weekend. Okay, if this had pumped after the CME had reopened, it would have made me very bullish, and it would have made me feel pretty good about possibly taking along with that target that I talked about on Thursday or Friday, which was that $8,100 area, right? I was getting pretty bullish there on the smaller time frame, thinking maybe we can run up to 8,100. Right now, I don't know. I don't know that we're going to run up there. I think that it's very, very difficult and probably not a great place for me personally as a trader, okay? Won't be looking for any day trades unless something drastically changes, and won't be looking for any swing trades until the CME opens and I kind of get a feel for how the week closes and all that kind of stuff. If we're looking at a 4-hour chart, right, this was that line of resistance that I was watching on the RSI. It had broke through it, basically just consolidated right on it, and then had to bounce off of it. So I will be interested to see what happens if it can get back down to this yellow line, to see whether it bounces off of it, whether it just falls right back through it. I'm not seeing any bearish divergence on this chart, right? We've got basically a slightly higher high in price over here, slightly higher RSI, so that's not hidden divergence. There's no regular divergence. It just looks like right now it's could go either way. Okay, I'm not ready to get into a position on that. Same thing on the hourly, right? It's not really extremely oversold or anything. It still could go either way, in my opinion. It's just kind of moving sideways here. If we look at the daily chart, the daily chart has this, for lack of a better term, I don't know how else to put it, guys. It has a kind of a bottomy feel to it, right? The other charts don't. The weekly doesn't, the monthly doesn't. All the other charts don't look bottomy to me. But the daily chart does. The more this thing consolidates sideways, and more specifically over the last 3 or 4 days, what it's done, it's interesting. Okay, I'm still a bear. I'm still not ready to say the bottom is in, but I'm closer to saying it than I have been. Okay, and the main thing is I really didn't feel like this was going to be an inverse head and shoulders. I know people were calling for it. I didn't think it would happen. I thought, I think it's a stretch, but this looks very, very similar to an inverse head and shoulders, right? You've got a left shoulder over on the side here. You've got a dip in the middle, which would be the head, and you've got this right shoulder, which basically was a perfect touch, right, of this support, and then a bounce. So it's going to be a confirmed head and shoulders or inverse head and shoulders in my mind once it breaks up through this 7540 level. Okay, once it gets up through that level, I think if it gets to that level, that it probably will head up to $8,000 or 8,100. Okay, and if you're wondering where I'm pulling that number out of, it's just the trend target. That's all it is. It's just a ballpark target based on Fibonacci extensions. So if we draw it from here to here, and we say this was our pullback, which, by the way, the reason that I like this as a pullback is because it is the golden pocket. I'll show you that in a second. And then the extension is $8,113, okay? And again, the reason I like that pullback is because if you draw the fibs, right there, the 61.8 fib lined up perfectly with the weekly support, and that's where it bounced off of. Now, here's what's really interesting. I don't think I talked about this in the previous video, so let me just bring it up real quick. If we do draw the extension, right, if we draw this like this, and 81.13 is our target, notice where that would put the 1.618. That would put it right at $8,891. Now that level is extremely important because remember what I've been calling for about a month, maybe more than a month now. I kept saying that I wanted to see the thing bounce back up to around 8,900 or 9 grand, 8,900, 9 grand, blah, blah, blah. Why? Because if you draw the Fibonacci levels from the top of the move, the 10.5, haha, we're going to liquidate you pump, all the way down to the bottom over here at $6,430, the 61.8 Fibonacci level is at $8,970. So it's right in that same ballpark. And if we draw a horizontal line there at these two levels, draw right side by side, and we go back in time, well, gee golly, look, that was that super important level of support that flipped to resistance once we broke south of it. So I do know that there are a lot of bears who are kind of, thinking that they're ahead of the curve, saying, okay, I'm going to wait until it gets to 8 grand or 8,100 and I'm going to short this thing. And maybe that's a good play. Maybe that works out for them. But I don't think that I'm going to rush into a short position at $8,100 if Bitcoin gets there. I think that it would make, for one hell of a short squeeze to run this thing all the way up to 8,900 bucks. Okay. It makes sense from a retest of previous resistance, support. It makes sense from a Fibonacci levels. It makes sense from a trend target level. It just makes sense to me. Okay, and we've been consolidating a lot longer this time than we did the last time before it pumped. Right, when it pumped back here, it put in about a 40% move, and that was after about 4 weeks. From the day it dumped to the day it pumped was about 31 days. Okay. If you look over here, it depends on where you draw this from, but if we draw it from, I must draw it from right here where this really starting to break down big. From this area here to where we're at now, it's 45 days. So that's 1.5 times as long, 1.5 times as much as consolidation. More consolidation, a lot of times you'll get a bigger move off of it. So, if it pumps up there, I don't think it would be that surprising. That would basically be a pump off the bottom here of about 38%, right? This move was about 40%. So, what was it? 44%. It's not that far-fetched. It's not near as far-fetched as a lot of bears probably believe it is, right? And like I've said before, guys, well, I've been a bear because we're in a bear market. I'm not blind. I'm not going to ignore the chart. If a chart looks bullish, I'm going to trade it as a bull. And right now, this chart has more bullish things going on than bearish. The only thing on this chart that's really bearish is the fact that we're in a downtrend, right? There's no bearish divergences that are, making me alarmed. There's really nothing from the bearish side right now, okay? And again, that doesn't mean that I'm suddenly jumping in along and turning into a bull. It just means that to me, it looks like it's trying to have a relief rally. Relief rallies are a good thing. In bear markets, relief rallies are for shorting. Okay, so there's some things to watch for. If we get rid of RSI and volume for just a minute, so we got a little bit more real estate on the screen, and we draw a channel, we'll just use the closes here, right? Then our channel looks something like this, and the top of that channel is up around 8,500 bucks. So here's the thing. If it breaks out and closes up around 8,900, right, which is different from just hitting it on a wick, but if it actually closes up there, we'd actually be out of the downtrend, okay? Doesn't mean it's confirmed over, but I really wouldn't want to short that. typically shorting something after it just broke through resistance isn't the greatest play in the world. So it's interesting. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on. If it pumps up there, it's going to be a little bit difficult to trade. It's going to be tough to tell what's going on because it's going to be very difficult to distinguish, is this a relief rally in a bear market, or is this the start of the next bull run leading up to the halving, right? And again, you guys know that I'm not a huge believer in the halving. I think it's probably been front ran, but I'm also not going to completely ignore it. And if I start to see signs that I'm wrong, then I need to trade it like I'm wrong versus just trying to, trade it and pretend I'm right, okay? Eventually I will be wrong. Every trader is wrong. That's just part of trading. So, I've been bearish for 6 months and it's worked out great, but eventually I'll say, hey, I'm bearish, and it'll say you're wrong, and it'll go up, and that's how you miss the bottom. Which, by the way, I'm guaranteed to miss the bottom, just so we're very clear on that. If you wait for confirmation, you'll always miss the bottom, right? I knew that going into this whole thing. I also missed catching a whole bunch of falling knives, okay? So yeah, it's looking pretty good for the bulls right now. If you measure the price target on this head and shoulders, it's about $900, right, from the bottom here to the neckline. So if we measure that out, it's going to have a target up around $8,500. So a couple different targets, 8,100, 8,500-ish, 8,900-ish. All those look like legitimate possibilities that we could see if this thing breaks north. Now, of course, we have to keep in mind that the other side of the coin is maybe this really was just one of these bullshit weekend pumps, right, to get people excited. And maybe when it opens tomorrow, the CME, or in about 12 hours or so, maybe the CME boys are going to take this and just, cram it down the retail traders' throats. Okay, so we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. So something else I was going to mention about this 5,500 target and all that kind of stuff. Think about this. Let's put the 200 week moving average on there. Let's assume for a moment that this thing does pump back up to just say $8,100, right? If it then moves down from there, this 200-week moving average is going to have time to move up more than it already has. And right now it's sitting at $5,100, okay? So by the time it does move back down, if it moves back down, right? So we're a whole lot of assumptions here. We're assuming that it will go up to 8,100 or more. We're assuming that after it goes up, it's a relief rally, nothing more. We're assuming that it'll then crash back down, blah, 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 right? If all of those things come to pass, it's very likely that by that time, 3, 4, 5 weeks from now, or maybe even longer, that this 200-week moving average is then sitting right around the same area, right around that $5,500 area. So if that's the case, suddenly we have a really easy long position to consider taking, right? Because then we'll have our 200-week moving average, we'll have our trend target hit, we'll be 2 to 3 months ahead of the halving, and at that point you probably would see me flip full bull, just because so many things would be coming together perfectly, and the timing of it all would be very interesting, right? With the halving right around the corner. I think this halving is important to keep an eye out for. Even if you don't believe that it's going to do much, if you're kind of in my camp where you think it was front ran, that's fine, but I wouldn't get complacent. I wouldn't go to sleep at the wheel, right? It's been easy to be a bear, but typically the longer it goes one way, the more likely it is to change direction on you, right? We're 6 months into this downtrend, more than 6 months, about 6.5 months. That's a really long downtrend considering the uptrend only lasted 3 months, right? It's normally not like that with Bitcoin. Normally you get 2 or 3 years of good uptrend and then 1 year of downtrend. So this is a very unique situation, and I do think we need to play it, basically with some vigilance, okay? So the first altcoin that I want to talk about was Zcash, because I was having a conversation about it with somebody on Twitter, and I think it's in an interesting spot right now. Zcash has been a very big disappointment for a lot of people, myself included. But when I look at it, the reason it's interesting is because it's trying to put in a double bottom on the weekly chart, not just any chart, the weekly chart, right? If we look at this thing, look at this. That is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So we had this huge move down. And this is what you basically want to see on altcoins, guys. Once they've had these big moves down like this, doesn't this remind you of Bitcoin's chart from 2018, right? Comes down, puts in a low, comes up, puts in a high. So far, it's just a normal downtrend, and then bam, higher low, right? So this is the first sign that we could be reversing on Zcash. And what we really want to see is we want to see it break this level right here. Because if it does, what we're going to have is we're going to have down, up, a perfect double bottom confirmed. Okay? And again, this is why you'll miss the bottom if you wait for confirmation, because if this is indeed the bottom back here, you know, I could be buying right now at 30 bucks, and if I wait, I'm gonna have to pay almost 33 bucks, which is about 10% more. It doesn't seem like a lot. It's like, oh, it's only 3 bucks. No, it's a lot. It's 10%, right? It's a big difference for sure. But we don't know if that's the bottom. But it does look good. I like it. I'm watching it, and I'm crossing my fingers that it's getting ready to reverse, and I can finally take a friggin' alt position, right? Which is what I've been wanting to do for a long time now. If we take a look at USD pair on Kraken, we got more history, and we can see that if we go back in time, look at this. I don't know what the deal was because I wasn't in crypto when this happened, but it says that when it was listed at 30 grand. Can you imagine somebody? I mean, I guess somebody actually bought Zcash at $30,000. How crazy is that? Now it's worth like 30 bucks. Whew, that's rough. The price right now is basically retesting the all-time low, right? This is the all-time low as far as on Kraken, going back to 2016 as far as closes go. This is the lowest it ever closed, was $29.24. And the lowest it ever got, other than maybe a crazy tail somewhere. No. Lowest it ever got was 22 bucks, it looks like, on Kraken. One thing that's bad about TradingView is the way they scale their charts. Because this one candle is so huge, it's completely jacking up the scale of the chart. So it's making this tough to see, but I think that's right. I'm not seeing anything lower than that. So, here we go. Low right here was 10 bucks, and that was in January 2018. I don't remember that. I don't know if that's a glitch in the thing or if that actually happened. But how crazy would that be if somebody had bought it 10 bucks that day? That week, it closed at 670 bucks. So they could have got a 600% return in 1 week. That would have been nuts. But anyway, I'm not worried about the $10 thing. I think that was something weird going on. You can see we're basically in this range, right? Between the all-time low close, all-time low tail, and we're trying to put in bullish structure. I like it, right? I think that Zcash is wanting to reverse. If we look at a Zcash Bitcoin chart, which I have not done before this video, let's see what we see. Same deal. It's sitting at an all-time low on Binance as far as closes go. Looks like there's some weird tail in December of 2017. I'm not super concerned about that. We'll draw a line just to look at it. But basically, it's at an all-time low, okay? How far down is that green line? Yeah, that green line's like 90-something%. I'm not worried about that at all. If we put this on a line chart to make it a little easier to see our patterns, this is, okay, so this is not a W, by the way. Some people would look at that and be like, oh, there's the W. No. This right side's too low. It's okay if they're close. They don't have to be exact. It's okay if the right side is higher. It's okay if they're close, but they can't be, the second one can't be a significantly lower price, because then all it is a lower low. Low, high, lower low, right? In this case, what we have is we have low, high, lower low, higher high, right? It's higher than this. Higher low, it's higher than this. Looks like it's reversing on the Bitcoin pair. So the fact that it's trying to reverse on the US dollar pair, looks like it is reversing on the Bitcoin pair, looks pretty good for Zcash. Again, it's not a confirmed double bottom because this was too low and because this neck's way up here, right? So if you wanted this to be a double bottom, you would need it to break this neck, and then you'd have basically a larger W that looks something like this. But I would keep an eye on this. I really would. I would keep an eye on Zcash. Okay. Somebody asked me to do, I can't do all the alts because they take so long to do, but somebody asked me to do BNB, so I'm going to do BNB real quick. And they didn't say whether they meant Bitcoin or USD, so I'm just going to assume they meant USD or USDT, I guess in this case. And we'll put this on a candlestick chart. Look at a 3-day chart. So there's bullish divergence on this thing right here. It's a few weeks old, so I don't think it's something that I'd really want to take a trade on now. but it does give us a nice line. And if we draw this all the way back, look at this. I love RSI trend line. So we had a touch here, we had a touch here, and a touch here. So you've got a trend line on RSI that's going back over a year. I think that is definitely worth watching. There is a gap right here. It's basically been filled in, so that's kind of over and done with. It's not perfectly filled in. It was down around 1187. It got down to about 1211, so it might still want to come retest that. But if it breaks through that, the next level that I would be interested in, I'll draw some fibs here. Wow, look at that. That green line where that liquidity gap was, it lines up perfectly with the 78.6 Fibonacci level. That very well could be the bottom on BNB. We don't have confirmation yet, but this is the kind of stuff that if I see this, I'm like, okay, I need to watch this. I need to watch it every day and make sure that I don't miss my entry. If we draw a trend, I think the most logical way to draw this would be something like this. And that trend was hit, and then it's got a extension target of down around $7.64. Let's draw a line there and see if it lines up with anything. I mean, it sort of does. I don't really love it. It lines up with a little bit of support back here. I don't love that line. It doesn't mean a lot to me. Maybe a little bit. Okay, let's draw. See what happens if we draw this a little differently. Maybe call this the move we're on. 345? I don't like that target either. I mean, somewhere around this $7 area, I could see that being important. It doesn't really line up with the trend targets though, but it is an area back here where it was resistance, then it was support, 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 right? And then right here is basically the neckline of the ascending triangle. So I think $7.03 or $11.87, somewhere those two levels are going to be super important. And I think what we see is if Bitcoin has bottomed, which I don't think it has, but if it's bottomed, I think 1187 probably was the line. And I think if Bitcoin goes back down to 4,000, 4,100 and retests its breakout, I think that's the scenario where we could see BNB get back down to $7. And if it does, especially if this RSI is pinging off this upward sloping trend line, I may look to take a position on BNB. I may not, because I don't have any tether. I don't really want to own any tether, but I might buy some tether just for the sake of buying BNB, I guess. Looks pretty good, right? On the zoomed in time frame, it looks a lot like Bitcoin, right? This looks like a triangle right now. Candle's not closed yet, but that does look like an ascending triangle to me, right? And if that's what that is, it's going to have about a $1.78 breakout target. That would give us a target right around $16, $15.95 to $16 area. And if we draw a horizontal line there, $15.95 to $16. I mean, it was support here. It was not really support or resistance here. I mean, but it was an important line. This kind of zone between, I'd say, 1575 and 1650, kind of in that zone. So that would make sense to get a breakout up to that area, right? I'd watch it. It looks pretty good, right, from a bullish standpoint. What else do we have to talk about today? Should we talk about... Oh, goodness. Video says I've been recording 45 minutes. So obviously with editing, that'll get cut down some, but I think that's enough. I'll spare you guys anymore. I'll see you tomorrow instead. So please remember, obviously, I am literally some guy sitting in a spare bedroom. Nothing in the video is financial advice. Nothing in the video is trade advice. You should always do your own due diligence and seek out professional investment advice before making any type of investment in cryptocurrency. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure and give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And of course, don't forget you can check the description for links where you can follow me on TradingView, Twitter, where you can join my free Facebook group, and also where you can check out Robinhood if you'd like. You can trade cryptocurrency commission free on Robinhood. You can also obviously trade stocks. And the good news is if you are not yet a member of Robinhood, you can sign up for free using that link. They'll give me some stocks for referring you. They'll give you some stock for signing up with that link. This is James with Crypto Common Sense. Trade safe.